How's it going, everybody? Tip top of the country picking morning. Starting late today. Hope you guys are doing great. I've had that old country tone. Like I like to think of it as like the Roy Nichols Tele tone on my mind lately, and one of the guys I grew up listening to and admiring and really trying to, mimic that style was a guy from Australia called Stewie French. And I've been talking to him lately, and we worked together on a record a couple of weeks ago, and I was listening to him in the headphones, and I feel like he's one of the few guys that really carries the torch for that tone and approach, and I just love it. It's like it's such an inside, unique style, getting that sound. That whole approach and getting that sound is like it's so much more than the equipment. I feel like it has so much to do with the pick. And I was talking to him on the phone the other day because we were talking about compressors, like it's a very common thing I hear around Nashville, like people using way too much compression on their Tele sound. I mean, it's all to taste, right? And no judgment, but what I really love is that sound of like those 60s Tele sound where it's I don't imagine they were really using pedal compressors. Like any compression that you hear would have been from the post production on the record, the mixing, which probably was either back then an 1176 or a LA2A maybe, on those country records. But we were talking about that, and one thing you can do, I feel like, to help get you down the road with that sound, first of all, there's a right hand thing you can do, and I've talked about this before. I think there's an episode called Light Touch and High End or something like that. But if you use the round end of the pick and you use upstrokes to kind of feather the string, and you really are conscious of your staccato, like your dexterity on your left hand, if you really keep that light in the hands, and you keep your decay short, it can get you down the road to getting that sound. There's two other little tricks that you can do with your guitar. And one is to back off your volume a little bit until it takes the really pingy high end off the sound, and it actually gives you sort of a natural compression. Like here's the volume all the way up. If you back this off, just like 2 clicks, to where you start to get a little butteriness on the front of the note. It lets the high end happen in the amp, and it gives you just a slightly, like a milkier kind of sound. Now, if you do the same thing with the tone control, it's a little less of a move, but if you just crack it back just a little bit, here's it all the way up. If you just pull it back just a hair, it kind of like gives you a natural sort of sustain or compression in your sound. Gives you more of that authentic country sound to me. It sounds more like that 60s records. They probably won't use as much reverb as I'm using, but you know, it's fun to use reverb. You're also, another thing you can do is keep moving this right hand around to get different tonal shading. You know, like the closer, I'm on the bridge pickup the whole time, but the closer I am to the neck, you can get that kind of fluty, sort of like steel sound. If you can imagine like a steel player, he's catching notes with his hand, so his sustain isn't spilling all over the place. So you can, if you think of that, you know, like the way he's catching those notes, you can mimic that with your right hand. I mean, there's so many variations, things you can do, and when I sit down and I start to get down the rabbit hole with refreshing my muscle memory with this sort of approach and tonality, you know, we have this Vince Gill tour coming up, and so I'm just, in the back of my mind, I'm starting to work on some of my just sort of country mental modalities. I call it snakes and ladders. Just sitting down and refreshing myself with, you know, where some of those greasy country things live, you know. I mean, you know, there's the standard country things that we like to do. So I like to find as many variations as I can on the same thing, and just like I was given a lesson the other day, and I was trying to explain how I get from one place to another, and this thing, snakes and ladders, is like basically all I do is I take one common thing that I know and I try to push it around to find everything that's available to me around that thing. So, for instance, everything is based off this, right? That's all I do, is I just literally sit around and fool around until I find something fresh and something new, and sort of like push out all the corners of what I feel like are places I wouldn't normally go. I try to get comfortable with those places. Someone once told me you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And sometimes just sitting around and making a bunch of mistakes is a great way to do that. The very first thing that I was thinking of when I started this little video was these chords. I love bringing the F sharp major 7 in to a D7. Trying to work on those half step bends. I think it's like a Roy Buchanan thing in the back of my mind. I like to do those bends that spill into a note, a ringing note too, you know, that you can sustain with the bend. I sit around all day. It sounds like I'm a crazy person, but I love finding those things. some things to think about there if you want to get down that old school country rabbit hole. As far as my sound, I've been using, I go back on the Greer Lightspeed. My wife bought me one for my birthday, and I really like it. It's great for that super subtle breakup where it's barely, it's more like a adds a richness than a distortion to the note, you know? Like you can barely hear it. And then I got an Analog Man modded Boss EQ, which I haven't had for years, and it's really good. I like to peel off some of that low end, kind of high pass, some of the real low rumbly stuff, which is another thing you would hear in that old country sound is there's like a rich low end in that sound. I'm thinking of like Don Rich and like Roy Nichols when I think about this sound. There's like a richness to the high end, and the low end is sort of like the whole sound of it is pushed forward to where there's not a, you know, the bass is what's happening in the low end on the record. So it's nice to carve some of that out if you want to get that sound. That's it, and just a little bit of Memory Man for slapback. Anyway, I hope you guys are great, and thanks for all those kind comments on the last video and that song Genevieve. I really appreciate that. I haven't played that song in 20 years, feels like. Keep the questions coming if you have any, and yeah, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.